I'm Lin-Manuel Miranda, and you're listening to Hard Knock Life.
Well, it's the NOC in full color. You see me? The Hard Knock Life. Comics, movies, and TV.
Welcome back to Hard Knock Life. I'm Keith Zhao.
I'm Britney.
Hi, I'm Dominic Ma.
Sorry we took the last week off. It was Halloween after all. Who works on Halloween? How was your Halloween, by the way, since we weren't here to talk about it?
It was a lot of fun. If you guys follow me on Instagram and Twitter, saw that I kind of half-assed my costume and just threw on my Loki hoodie and my variant shirt that I got at Hot Topic, and was like, I'm like a variant Loki, works for the
There you
TVA. Like, that was my thing. And we went over to my brother's house because it was my nephew's first time going trick-or-treating, and he was SpongeBob. My brother was Patrick, and then his wife, my sister-in-law, was Sandy. And
Nice.
if you've seen the pictures on my Instagram, they're very cute. And my brother got the blow-up Patrick suit. So my nephew was very he was like, where are you? Like, because he didn't know where my brother
Does
went.
Blow Up Patrick blow up? Is that what he
It's
does?
like like those
Like inflatable.
like the
Oh,
inflatable,
not like explode and like come back
yeah,
together.
I didn't know what to couldn't think of the word. Yeah, it's like a little like Patrick inflatable suit. So it completely covers my brother's face. So my nephew was very like, where are you?
Oh,
And he was like scared of
sad.
him for a little bit. It was really funny though.
Dominic, any crazy Halloween stories?
I did nothing. I looked at the costumes of Dune again.
Well, I did see you. This wasn't for Halloween, but this is in the week since Halloween. Hosted a star-studded private screening of Eternals.
Oh,
I
yeah.
saw the rapper MC Frontalot talking about it on Twitter.
Oh, yeah.
What?
MC Frontalot is my friend from back in the day. And we rented out a theater at AMC, a good price point, so we could have people who are, vaxxed and masked, and we could, sort of manage the people who came, and it was great fun. I highly recommend, if you have the means and the scheduling power to do the private screening.
Because I know that you've been very opposed to seeing anything outside of the streaming services. So this is the second time you did this, right?
Both for the Marvel
Shang-Chi,
movies, because they're just they're the ones doing this only in theaters thing. I mean, that's not fair. I mean, like, lots of movies are doing the only in theaters thing. The Bond movie did, and I didn't see the Bond movie at all. So, but
Marvel's the only one you're willing to do that for.
I have to follow for the Marvel movies, yeah, and they are like an event, even if people don't care about Marvel or don't know what they're going to see. They know it's a Marvel event. So
I mean, is it a coincidence that the two Marvel movies where they did this was Shang-Chi and Eternals, the two Marvel movies directed and led by Asian? It's like the only ones they experimented on were the Asian movies. Is that kind of is that what Simu took offense to?
Yeah, and I think he took it more personal because I personally think Marvel was really hoping Eternals was going to be like an Oscar darling type of film, so they were putting more I feel like advertisement into Eternals versus Shang-Chi, so it probably really felt like cool. They don't care if what happens to Shang-Chi as long as Eternals is does what it needs to do. And I feel like me personally, I actually liked Shang-Chi better. I feel like it's a more concise storytelling, and I feel like it has a little bit more heart than Eternals does, unfortunately. Not that I didn't like Eternals, but I feel like it's very funny that to me, Shang-Chi ended up being the better movie, which was the movie that they were kind of not super into promoting as much,
Well, let's get into it. I mean, Eternals is the topic du jour, and it's the thing that I wanted to talk about the most because it's interesting, right? Of all of the MCU movies, Eternals has the lowest Rotten Tomatoes score. It's got the most mixed to negative reviews from the critics. Clearly, Britney wasn't that big a fan of it, but I did want to talk about, our opinions. I will, before I ask Dominic what your opinion of the film was, I will say this: it's top 5 MCU for me, but I'm weird.
Cool.
Well, my reasons aren't that I actually like the movie. That I want to make clear. I did like it. It's not to me the worst MCU movie is still the Incredible Hulk movie and or Dark World. Nothing will ever be as bad as those two. So don't worry. I don't think Eternals is that.
No, man, I wasn't trying to say that.
Your positions are solid, Dark World and Incredible Hulk. You've got those locked down.
So nothing is probably gonna beat those for me. I just think that it would have served better as being a part 2 movie than trying to fit so much into this one movie. That's all I felt like about it. Like, I still loved everything that she did. I just felt like it just would have served better as a two-parter. That was it. That's like my biggest like beef with it, pretty much. Okay.
Dom, what was your opinion of the movie?
Yeah, I mean, short version, concur. Trying to do too much, really good parts. And that's basically it. But I mean, like, I feel like it is without question the most epic Marvel movie they have yet attempted, in the classical sense of epic, like in a billion different countries over thousands and thousands of years. Way too many people in the cast, you know, old school epic, like Roman Empire shit. And so given
literally
so given all that shit, kind of like doomed to not be a cohesive movie, because that's way too much. And I don't even mean doomed because it's like mainly good. You just can't really feel the spine because there are all these different things going on. So, but really an achievement. And just to mention quickly, it's fun that we do get to speak in comparison of the two Marvel Universe movies that were recently directed by an Asian American person, or more leaning Asian person for Chloe Zhao's case. But I won't get deep.
Well, she's an Asian American in the sense that she's an immigrant who lives in America, right? Like, she's not a Chinese national necessarily. You know, like, her films are about the American experience. It's not the Asian American experience, but she does do movies about the.
That is also totally Asian American. I think I was qualifying it extra much because the movie is so loaded with people from the UK. You really do feel it's like
I mean, it's half the Game of Thrones
British
cast,
Oceania production.
I mean, they even got Ramin Djawadi to do the score for the film. It was like, Richard Madden and Jon Snow weren't enough Game of Thrones references. We need to get the guy who did the score too. No, I mean, I was actually going into the film with some, low expectations because of all of the. I didn't read the reviews, but I did see the score.
The reviews do not know what the hell they're talking about. Can I just?
Well, and I still haven't really read the reviews. So that one of the things I want to dig into is what were the complaints of the critics, because typically Marvel is critic proof, but I think it has also like a pretty low audience score, and it might not make. I think it's struggling to make like $70-80 million this weekend. So that's for a Marvel film. It's not typical. Brouhaha that most Marvel,
especially
even Black Widow and Shang-Chi, specifically MCU, right? So you guys have talked a little bit about the limitations of the discrepancies, but what do you think accounts for that? Because again, maybe I'm an outlier. I'm one of the few people who went in with low expectations and came out with like I said, this is easy top 5 for me Marvel movie.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
Do you like the Man of Steel movie though, right? Zack Snyder.
So because not really, Chloe, but here's the yeah.
I know Chloe said that she kind of took a lot of inspiration from Zack Snyder's Man of Steel.
Icarus.
For Icarus,
which is weird. Like, I mean, I was following that Twitter thread, so I mean, I've read that this is the most DCEU MCU movie, right?
Oh my gosh, yes. Can we talk about that for just 1 minute? How much they were trolling the DC and Justice League specifically?
I mean, literally, Batman and Superman make not cameos,
they name drop Batman and Alfred, and they talk about Superman, and all the way the fights are constructed are very much like the whole gang versus Superman, kind of like happened in Justice League.
Yep.
So I'll give Chloe Zhao this credit. She wanted to tap into like every cult of personality on the internet with this movie. And going forward, we're just going to spoil it, right? So
spoiling.
If you haven't seen the movie, turn off the podcast, come back to it later. We're going to give a lot of spoilers, including the mid and end credit sequences. But I think, referencing the thing that Britney just said on Twitter, as we know, Zack Snyder has a cult following, let's say, on the internet, of people who just worship at the throne of anything Zack Snyder does. And so Chloe Zhao said in an interview that she took a lot of inspiration from Man of Steel, and that she was really wowed by the trailer, specifically how the trailer looks like Terrence Malick does a Superman movie, which is what I felt. And honestly, the Man of Steel trailer is like my favorite. I don't like the movie. I love the trailer. Man of Steel trailer is like my favorite Superman movie, right? But I will. So the Zack stans are like throwing a party on Twitter, right? They're like, one of us, like she's subverting the MCU, or she's like a mole inside the MCU for like the Zack cult, which I think is funny because she says specifically Icarus is inspired by Man of Steel. And if you've seen the movie and how Icarus turns out, I think her commentary on Superman is exactly not what Superman should be, right? Like, because Icarus is clearly not this. He looks like Superman. He has the powers of Superman, but like he's fundamentally not Clark Kent, right?
Oh.
And so when Chloe Zhao says Man of Steel inspires my Icarus, I'm like, yeah, I see that, because Man of Steel doesn't get Superman. But anyway.
Yeah, funny that. No, I think you're totally right. And of course, you dipped into the iconography with the sun and the guy who gets power from the sun and has the last meeting with the sun. And yeah, Icarus struggles with being a regular human guy.
Yeah, I mean, right, because
I
this
mean, just
movie
he
evolved
isn't big too. He doesn't even have that existence.
I mean, this is what makes this such a DCU movie, because it's like gods trying to be human. But I think the difference is that in the DCEU, the gods don't give a shit about humanity, whereas they do here. And I think that's, to me, the key difference between like this is what DC wants to be. I felt like what I took out of Eternals.
Yes.
It was still cooler than Justice League, I think.
For sure. Like I think the Zach cult is what they're missing. Like they're on the surface, they're celebrating Chloe's like embrace of the DCEU for whatever it's worth. But what they're missing is that like she gets at those themes that Zack Snyder's trying to do in Justice League much better in Eternal than he does in any of the 3 movies he's done for DC.
Right. The whole gods
and humanity. Yeah.
You know, relationship.
The thing I was saying earlier though, like I love how she's like tapping into literally every stan culture, because on top of like the Man of Steel reference that she makes in an interview, she casts Harry Styles as Eros in the mid-credit sequence to like attract the Harry Styles stans. Apparently there's a BTS song in the movie, because
it's right when they're going on the plane, when they're leaving. Where were they?
When the Kingo's movie set.
Yes, when they're leaving his set, like the song that plays for a second, because it's in Korean, is the BTS song.
So she's got the whole army like freaking out on Twitter that BTS makes a cameo in the movie. So you know, she's got the Harry Styles fan, she's got the BTS fan, she's got the Zack Snyder fan. She's like literally, and she's got the Game of Thrones stands with Richard Madden and Kit Harington. It's like I just feel like she's like piecing together every
different like parts of pop culture
and just shoving it into this movie.
Yes,
I thought I was impressed.
Just added to the ambitiousness, but go on.
Yeah.
Since I have issues with the Arrows casting.
Well, let's talk about it. I mean, I was surprised that it was. I think it leaked a couple weeks ago. I had no idea. So when he shows up, I was like, "Oh, hey, that's." I
heard the rumors before, like while they were filming, and I'm like, I hope this isn't true, because that's like not. No, he's, and it's not that I'm not saying I have never seen him act, so I can't like judge it based on his acting ability. But I feel like this character.
He's pretty good in Dunkirk. That's the only thing I've ever seen him in.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot he was in that movie. I didn't like that movie.
So clearly his acting didn't impress.
Well, I didn't like that movie, so I just don't really remember who's all in that movie, honestly. What is it? No, just his character is so like, if anyone who's really familiar with his characters, they know he's like, you know, a man whore. And yes, probably, I don't know if Harry Styles is a man whore, but he gets himself into situations where they're not necessarily consensual all the time, or he thinks they're consensual, but they're really not. So he's a very kind of problematic dude. And I'm just like, I feel like a lot of his fans are going to freak out if they like,
if they lean into the Star Fox,
if they really lean into the Star Fox of it. And I feel like I just feel like then like Marvel has to really embrace like, you know, letting people be sexy and sensual and stuff on screen, because literally that's like the essence of Star Fox's character. So I don't know, and I just don't see Harry Styles pulling it off as well.
Are you a Harry Styles person generally?
He's okay to me. I really like his cover of The Chain, you know, the Fleetwood Mac song.
Right on.
Like his cover of that is really good. So I do think he's like a talented singer. I don't know. I think Lucas Bravo would have been a better Star Fox.
Okay, wait, just to back up for context, Star Fox is the other name of Eros, who is Thanos' brother in the comic book world.
I like Star Fox better. I like calling him Star Fox better than Eros. Eros doesn't sound as fun as Star Fox.
It's a cool name. Who could kind of stumble over Eros, but that to give him the god reference, and he's Thanos' brother, who is like sort of a, you know, split image with Thanos. You know, the Star Fox is like human looking and suave, but his dark secret is he's got this sort of like magnetic attracting people power, so he's really a lech.
And Thanos is Thanos like part deviant, part eternal? Is that like why he looks the way he does? Isn't that part of
that's a good trivia question. He's part something and part eternal. I don't know if it's deviant. It might be.
And then
part some other
Thena
race
is
that is on
technically their
Titan.
cousin. Angelina Jolie's character Thena is technically their cousin in the comics, so I don't know if they're following through with that in the movies now.
Mm,
Let me ask you guys this. I mean, you
I will
are
say I think Star Fox
slightly
complicated everything. But anyway,
more familiar with the Kirby comics, or at least not necessarily Kirby's comics, but like Eternals in the comics than like most of the audience going to see this movie. I was surprised by how faithful it ultimately was to like the kind of Kirby comics, in the sense that
The
like
look.
well, the looks, but you know, the costumes weren't exactly the same as the characters.
Mhm.
I know they did a lot of gendered race swapping, which is of course they're going to do, because if you just follow everything from the 60s, everybody's white, right? So that's cool.
Mhm.
But like the fact that I wasn't 100% sure they were going to go with the whole space baby thing. You know what I mean? That like one of the fundamental
Space
things about the
Baby.
Eternals, right, is that the Celestials implant their seeds in planets around the galaxy to birth new celestials. And I thought that's just such a wild concept to include in the MCU. And the
Mhm.
fact that they did that, I was like, props. I will give you credit for
I
for following
believe
through.
that was started in the Earth X miniseries in
Is
the
that
comics.
not part of the Kirby stuff?
I don't believe so. I believe that started with the Celestials always came down and invented some form of deviance and some form of Eternals. And the reason they did that, I think, has been retconned several times. I just say it that way because I remember reading the Earth X comic. Did anyone read Earth X maxi
That's
series?
the Alex Ross
Like,
one, right?
Alex Ross did the covers, and what's his face? I'm not going to remember their interior creator's name at the moment. It's not important. What is important is that's the series where they introduce this reveal that the Earth is just a celestial egg, and that's how Celestials reproduce. And that was such
And
a
then
wild moment.
Galactus is his job is actually, he's not an evil bad guy. His
He's
job is to
sort
like
of a celestial aborter, to be very crass about it.
but to keep the population Celestials under.
Yeah, which were celestial eggs. And this gets to a very weird area. Celestials are like gods. Like, we always get kind of a bad vibe from them, right? We think of them as like overpowerful egomaniacs, spreading their seed. So that's when it got into the point of, oh, you're preventing billions of lives from being created. I tuned out on that. Like, I was like, I don't
Yeah.
see how you take the celestial side. It's
No,
Earth.
they're-
It's Earth. We need.
Well,
Yeah,
other than the fact that like the Eternals are fundamentally programmed to kind of probably take the celestial side, right? I think that's what makes Cersei so unique, is that she and Ajax eventually, right?
And that's fine. Icarus didn't need a reason to be Dicarus. That was just his programming. It was when they started to try to articulate it as moral argument for the Celestials' way of doing this. Like, that's I can't get with that. And that's where the central conflict of the movie started to wobble for me. But that said, like, up to that point, like, I thought it was cool. They're going for a Marvel movie with a real moral quandary type problem, which I think reflects very much from like Captain Marvel. That's one movie I think. Well, a lot of them have. Black Panther also a good example, but a good consideration of what really is the good and evil in this story. And it was similar to the thing that comes up in Captain Marvel, and Gemma Chan was in both those movies. So I think she's been the most morally complex Marvel movies. That was what I was leading to say.
I will say this, that like, I think what I took away from the film, I like the fact that it was unafraid to, even if it was a little sloppy, it was unafraid to have that question. Because I think the thing about MCU movies is that they're rarely about, other than you just point out Captain Marvel, but even Captain Marvel, like, I don't think that's the main thrust of that movie, the moral quandary, right? I think it's
nicely backs up the origin story, which is nicely focused on one person as opposed to 10 people. So
right.
Then we get back to Turtles, and it's like,
but I guess what I mean is that, like, I felt like the Eternals movie was the least formulaic of all of the MCU movies. It's to me felt the most kind of like, I think one of the complaints, at least maybe not from critics, but at least I know from MCU fans, is that it feels so disconnected from the rest of the MCU. And that might be what I liked about it, that it didn't like, it felt disconnected in a way that made sense. Whereas Shang-Chi to me felt disconnected in a way that didn't make sense. Like, Shang-Chi felt like its own little pocket universe that was kind of shoehorning into the MCU, whereas like Eternals just felt like its own thing. And who knows how they're going to like insert like, that's what I was saying about the Celestial baby. Like, how is this going to ultimately fit into the MCU going forward, especially when the MCU is focusing so much on like multiverses and all that stuff, that like it almost feels like Eternals doesn't fit into the overall, franchise, which to me was refreshing and exciting, and that's what I liked about it. Although I will say, we were speculating, speaking of Shang-Chi, we were speculating that the 10 rings were connected to the Eternals, and then when Fassel was like, I'm going to create 10 bracelets, I was like, and then I was like, wait a minute, but this isn't 10,000 years ago.
It kind of looked like that for a minute,
now.
but I don't think they made
still,
that connection.
Yeah.
And so what I'm thinking is that maybe there are other Eternals that left those bracelets behind. And when we stumbled upon, but I think I was incorrect about the 10 rings connecting into.
Well, I think because we're trying to I think that's the problem, is they've had so many movies before now that you could easily map to where it's going, where it flows, or even if it's a movie like Captain Marvel was made later on, but this goes right before like the first Iron Man movie, like you can kind of pretty much map out where the timeline and where everything fits in to the order of the story of the MCU. But now you have both Shang-Chi and Eternals, where you're just like, where does this go? How is this gonna? And then you're thinking of Spider-Man: No Way Home. You're like, how do we get there? So
plus all the Disney Plus shows, right? Because you have like Loki and WandaVision kind of expanding the multiverse stuff. What If expanding the multiverse, and that feels like where Phase 4, Phase 5 is going. Whereas like Eternals, Shang-Chi does feel like just doesn't feel connected, I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll find a way.
I think they want to. A little bit. I mean, Shang-Chi feels a little bit more connected, just because we had like Wong show up
in
and
the
everything.
Doctor Strange world.
Yeah.
What were you saying, Tom?
Well, I think they want to keep their options for the big bad at the end of the phase. That will be some combination of King and Celestial Problem, as opposed to just King. That's my guess.
I mean,
it should be Galactus to make everyone really happy. But and I also want to say quickly, it's not a mystery why this is getting bad reception or uncertain reception. It's still that no one cares about the Eternals. Okay. Like, no, they're not anyone's favorite characters. They're a legacy character, a bunch of legacy characters that are from an important era, but they just don't have like the same tug that just Iron Man's armor does, or even Daredevil. Even if you don't like them so much, you know them more than you know the Eternals, and I think that's just it.
And I mean, that's the thing that like Marvel has been able to do for characters that no one typically gives a shit about.
Right.
But this was the one time they were unable to make the connection,
but they didn't make any of them a cute animal and like a funny alien.
I will say,
really
like,
good-looking humans.
I was really affected by like the relationships. I think that's the other thing I liked.
Oh yeah,
like, these felt real relationships, human relationships, like real characters. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the plot might be convoluted. It might, but I think just the way the characters interacted and their interior life, like. That's what I loved about the movie. Like each character, even though it was a huge cast, had interiority. I think that probably the two leads had the least interiority, and that's Cersei and Icarus.
Yeah.
But Gilgamesh and Thena's relationship was I want a whole
deep
movie, TV series about them living in that shack in Australia. Like I want that. I want a sitcom with Gilgamesh and Thena, like cooking pies and like her going crazy and trying to attack him once in a while, and then he has to like remind her he loves her, and then like that's every episode how that
a
happens,
good show.
Right? He's trying to cook a pie, and Athena like is chopping his head off, and he's like constantly waving her off. I also loved Makari and Jurig's relationship.
Yes, that's my new favorite ship.
Well, especially because I was thinking from the trailers, Jurig's going to be like he turns on them and everything, and it turned out that
that he was really going to be the one to be against them. So I was like,
but he really cared about Makari all along, and I just love Brian Tyree Henry as Phastos. He was
he was
such a real character. I wanted him like to be like I want more of him. So I think that's what coming out of the film. That's what I really liked, and I think that's what Chloe was able to bring to the film, and including the beautiful vistas, and it felt like a movie in the real world. It didn't feel, even the CGI at the end didn't fall into like, to me, the CG mess that like most superhero movies fall into, not just Marvel movies, but I always complain about the third act, and This, I felt like they were still on that beach. It wasn't like all of a sudden they're in Atlanta,
Yeah.
Let's talk
No,
about those love relationships a bit more. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
No, I was gonna say I agree with everything that you said, Keith. That I think this is the most beautifully shot Marvel movie. Even the CGI doesn't look as, painful sometimes as some of the CGI does.
I mean, those
in other
Eternals
movies.
looked awesome.
Like,
I was,
yeah.
seeing Arishem on a big screen to
Mhm.
me was like seeing the Star Destroyer. Like there was just something
He has that vibe.
enormous
I
about
kind
it.
of
I would
really
imagine
loved
just watching it in IMAX.
I felt like this was like Star Wars and like the Justice League and like ancient mythology and all that all in one. So I really
Yeah.
do feel like this was the most epic and ambitious that Marvel has done. And I just hope that the few negative like reviews or criticism of it doesn't hold them back from wanting to do more stuff like this, because also one, I'd like that this was more of adult themed film, not because of like, people are having sex in the movie, which this scene is only 20 seconds or less, so I don't know why people are complaining about it. But like, a lot of the fans are older, and especially those who are like most Marvel fans now have grown up with Marvel. So I just feel like, it's okay to make films that are more targeted for their older audience. Like it's okay. You don't have to make everything be family friendly. But that's just my opinion.
Not the most scandalous sex scene ever, but
It wasn't.
mainly what's his face, Madden's big muscled back, which is nicely framed
Yeah,
in the thing. But yeah, they had to try to do love stories, and one should, but one has to get some love stories in there eventually. Me personally, I was not engaged at all with the two Game of Thrones guys fighting over the immortal Asian chick. There's all sorts of things in there, but I appreciate that there were all these other little love stories that, kind of, I just say like none of them were fully realized, because that would be like a 4-hour long movie, but they offer all this potential.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Like there's enough in there. There's enough meat on the bones to like, again, if they wanted to expand into like a Disney Plus series, not that they would, right? Like I'm sure Don Lee and Angelina Jolie aren't going like, yeah, let's do a 8-episode sitcom about us living in this shack. I mean, even as much as Keith wants it, I don't think that's in the plan right now. But what it allowed my imagination to do, seeing them like living that life for like hundreds of years, like the real care they had for each other, you don't get that from MC movies. Like MC movies have always, like to Brittany's point, have been chased since like 2008, and this is the first time you got to see real, because like the romance and love stories have never worked, other than maybe Cap and
I feel like
Peggy.
Cap and Peggy were the only like solid romance.
None of the other
and
relationships.
Then, well, now you could say like
Wanda
Vision
and
and Wanda.
But again, that was because of that relationship was never fully realized in the films.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I agree. The show definitely made them much more like, where I'm like, okay, I really am on board with them as a couple in the MCU, which I know it's canon in the comics, but sometimes it doesn't always translate well in the films. But no, I think I've enjoyed most of all the couples. And
yeah, Kingo and his valet are also
oh my god, they have to be a couple.
Oh yeah,
I totally thought they
that
were
was
boyfriends.
really precious.
Everything
Kingo was really
his name
good.
was Karan, right?
Karan?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Well, I have to say that Karan and Milton are like two of my favorite. Like,
yeah,
he was very much a Milton-esque.
They're not powered, but I don't know. I really like both of them. So I like Karan a little bit more just because we actually got more like him interacting. Yes, he was hilarious. I love when I don't know what happened, but it was something happened in the movie, and then King goes like, "Did you get that?" And he's like, "Yes, sir. Yes, I did." Like
and I just love he's always got a camera. He's got like 3 like Sprite is like, how many cameras do you have? So before we finish our discussion about Eternal, I guess we should mention the end credit sequence, because I think that's
yes.
the big. I mean, we talked about the mid credit sequence, but the end credit sequence.
I was upset before we get to this. I was upset that Kit Harington was not as much in this movie, because I really thought he was, because I know his character is technically like original Eternals character in the comics.
Well, he's the Black Knight in the comics. I don't Is he? I mean, other than I know he dated Cersei. Is he really
think
like
it's-
part of the
I-
Eternals?
He's
comics?
not an Eternal. He's the Black
He
Knight.
was an
Am I-
Avenger.
I
Am
mean,
I
he might.
remembering?
No,
Okay,
I mean they might have
'cause
changed it. They might have changed it.
Because
But-
I was reading the Neil Gaiman run, and I thought that his character was the one that Icarus is like harassing in the beginning. I haven't finished reading it, but like Icarus is harassing to be like, "Yeah, we're Eternals, bro," and he's like, "No, get away from me, you crazy man." So like, so unless I'm mixing up character names, I was pretty sure that it was Kit Harington's character. So when I was like, "He's not an Eternal," what's happening?
Well,
I
no, I
did-
mean, in the 80s, he was not an Eternal. I haven't read the
Okay.
Game and Run, so I don't know. What's very possible is that they messed with his origin so that the ebony blade like gives him extra long life. So maybe he's been around somehow
Mhm.
magically with the Eternals with that, but I don't believe he actually is one.
Yeah,
but
but
you know, they
Cersei
change that
makes
shit
a-
all the time.
Cersei makes reference to his uncle, and I know in the comics his uncle was the villainous Black Knight from like early Avengers comics, and then Dane Whitman becomes like the heroic Black Knight. So I don't know. I mean, I do think that there was a YouTube video that showed like the last scene Richard Madden and Kit Harington have together on Game of Thrones before Jon Snow goes off to the Night's Watch.
Mhm.
Rob says to him, "Next time I see you, brother, you're going to be in all black." And then they don't see each other again because they're separate for the rest of the show. And then of course Robb
Mhm.
Stark dies. But so the next time Robb Stark and Jon Snow actually do see each other, he is the Black. Well, he's not officially the Black Knight, but he is, in black because
I think
is.
he did have black on pretty much.
Maybe he
so
was
yeah.
wearing black, right? Yeah. So I
I think
thought
he
that
was.
So, Brittany, did you think Kit was going to go full Black Knight, as many of us did?
Yeah, I really thought he was gonna, fight and be a part of the movie, and I was just like, so he was this movie for like 2 minutes.
He's
Yeah.
just the love
Well,
interest.
Yeah,
He's
he's
the
like
damsel
the
in distress.
unimportant love interest.
Yes.
Yes, he is the damsel in
It's
distress.
kind of cool though.
actually.
It's kind of cool that they do,
Um,
but they do set him up for a
Yes.
future film, and
Yes.
it's confirmed which movie he might be in next. You
Yes,
guys know who
because
that voice is at the end.
You guys are gonna laugh at me. At first, I was like, "The hell, that's Samuel Jackson? How they make him
That's a
sound
lot
so
of people
young?"
thought. That. Yeah.
And
Yeah, a
then
lot of people thought that.
Someone messaged me, and they're like, "No, Brittany, that was Blade," and I was like, "What?"
Yes,
Yeah, that's cooler.
Yeah.
and it was confirmed by Chloe Zhao that it was Blade, Mahershala Ali's voice at the end.
Yeah,
Although
that's a
wish-
neat one.
I wish they
it's
showed
neat.
him.
Vampires
I do
and
wish they.
the
Why
magic
couldn't they show
swords.
him though? Right.
Maybe he
that's the
was
only
a-
thing.
They haven't
Maybe-
decided what he looks like yet.
Maybe
That's true. They
true.
haven't come up with a concept. I just wish they had, or they could have done a weird shot where you can't fully see his costume, but like it's Blade. So like you're like, okay, yeah, it's Blade. But I was just like, why does it sound like a younger Samuel Jackson? Like I was really,
Well, and it makes sense though, right? Because the Ebony Blade, doesn't it have some connections to Blade in the comics, and at least it's to vampires or something?
Well, they
is
both
that-
have blade in them. Yeah, no, I mean it's a magic device. I think it has some vampire killing or empowering properties, and that would be actually a good connection to make the Black Knight more interesting, because I think the Black Knight is not that interesting a character.
Yeah.
yeah, they're definitely gonna try to make him more interesting. I think, but
Okay,
And
but
it looks like he's going to be in the Blade movie, right? Like that's what
yeah,
they're
he has
hinting.
to be.
and that works. I want to pose a question to both of you
Yes.
whenever we're winding down on this. So, do you think this will be the Last Jedi of Marvel movies, and that kind of divisive, and some people like it a lot and some people not?
I mean, it already is.
Yeah, I was
There
gonna
you
say it already
go.
is.
We've
But-
It's the
settled
first
This
MCU movie
is the
that's been
Last
this
Jedi
divisive, for sure.
I feel like
equivalent
I'm
of
gonna get
the Marvel
attacked for
universe.
this, but the Last
Attacked by
Jedi-
clones?
Maybe the Last Jedi is a better film than the Eternals.
Yep, that's
Yeah,
fine. I didn't mean which was.
I don't disagree with that.
I didn't mean which is a better
Okay.
movie. I just more
But I
similar in what they
agree
do
that
to
they
the
have
culture.
the same yes, they come in and they both subvert the genre, and there are people who are having a meltdown about it. I'm not having a meltdown. Like I said, I just feel like this movie would have been a lot better if it had been a 2-parter movie, just so then more little like relationships get fleshed out and things like that.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see how like they could have probably saved the Celestial baby stuff for like a part 2, and then just made this be about deviants and who killed Ajak. You know what I mean? It like
Yeah,
it
yes,
didn't have to
they could've-
necessarily be.
They could have ended it with the scene of like, if they had more like fleshing out of all the characters and a little bit more of maybe what they're kind of been doing in the last 100 years or the thousands of years, whatever. And then like, their going against all the deviants, and then it should have ended with the scene with Icarus coming to visit Ajax. Like it should have ended there or something. Like,
But-
you know.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, but I mean, counterpoint with Dune, right? A story that is way too long, and they try to condense it, or they try to stretch it out to 2. I don't really agree with that. I think they had to bring in the celestial egg story because I think that's what gives it its moral gray area, which is the interesting part. I do
Right,
agree
right,
it is
absolutely,
just
absolutely.
jammed into too short a space, and I don't think that was I don't think that was a fixable problem. I think
I mean, it's not like
Chloe
Marvel's
Zhao did
never done a
something with
4-hour
like
movie.
basically an
before, though.
impossible task.
It's not like Marvel's never done a 4-hour movie before, though. So
Yeah, true, but they weren't gonna leave
they-
it that
but-
with all new dudes.
yeah.
And
Also,
before anyone
Endgame
starts
earned
saying
those
this,
4 hours.
no, this doesn't mean get James Gunn to direct every movie with the obscure characters. Because people say that it's like, oh, James Gunn did it. We can get this movie right with the obscure characters. It's not impossible.
The other Last Jedi analogy I will add too is that it's interesting because, like Last Jedi, there are 2 factions of quote unquote haters or critics, right?
Mhm.
The critics who, like Brittany said, didn't appreciate the subversion or felt like the characters, or the formula did not meet their expectations. That's that kind of legitimate story concerns of Last Jedi is
Yes.
one faction of critic. The other faction of critic are the people up in arms that there are Black Eternals and Asian Eternals and gay Eternals and forced diversity down our throat. That was the other faction of Last Jedi haters, right? And then
Yeah.
it's important to not blend the two. Like the people who are criticizing The Last Jedi for story
Mhm.
reasons aren't necessarily the racists and the sexist. And the same here, the people criticizing Eternals for its story problems are not the racists and the sexist, but there are a lot of racists and sexists who don't like the fact that this movie exists. And
Yeah.
I heard the scene where Festos kisses his husband. People in my theater, like, upset, like guffawing or like being physically disgusted.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, like they did that. They were like, ugh.
haters.
Yeah, and it was like it was so
Haters in the
disappointing
theaters.
that. But again, it's like similar to like how those same types of people who didn't like force diversity down their throats with Last Jedi are the same ones who are like review bombing Eternals. And it's just, it is interesting that, to your point, I didn't even think of it until you mentioned it, Dominic, that this is like the Last Jedi of the MCU.
No, it definitely is. And yes, I think people need to really check exactly why someone's saying they don't like a movie before being like you're a racist or you're homophobic or what, all of that. Because some people, like you said, might have actual legitimate story reasons why they didn't like the movie. And now I think because of how bad the movie is doing, Disney has agreed to cut and edit the film for other countries to approve it.
Oh, because it got banned in
Because
some
of the-
movies because
Well, I think because of how bad how it's not doing numbers out here like it should have. They have, I think, now agreed to cut that scene out, basically.
Well, that's actually kind of a bigger scandal than anything because it's
Yeah.
just conceding to
They conceded, I think.
fucking,
Yeah, and it's really.
restrictive conservative governments.
Yep. And I think if the movie had done well out here, where they didn't need to worry about other countries where making money, they probably would have kept with the, oh no, we're not going to take it out. But now they are apparently. But if that's not true, someone please fact check me. But that's what I saw, I saw it on Twitter. So Twitter's not always true.
Interesting. Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's true that things are not always true. Is Brian Tyree Henry gay? I mean, not that he has to be. I just think he does a lot of gay parts. So I'm just curious.
I don't know if he is.
Oh,
but
he's done several gay
he's
roles.
a really, really great actor. And that scene with him and Ajax in the film, after
the
basically-
Hiroshima. That's another one that like a lot of people were really upset about. I thought it was really affecting.
I thought it
honestly.
was too. And I think a lot of people took it as like, oh, he himself, but he is supposed to help humanity move along in evolution in terms of like technology. That's his job. And
Right.
he doesn't necessarily like tell them go and destroy people with
The
it.
one criticism I did see somewhere, I forget, and maybe it was on Twitter too, but it was the fact that like, why was Festos so upset over Hiroshima, but not like slavery? Like Hiroshima was 1945, and like the slave trade was like 1619. So anyway, we'll end the Eternals talk there. We'll take a break, and then after the break, we'll just get into what's been nerd popping since we've been out for 2 weeks. So we'll see you on the other side.
My Manscaped is not strong today. I feel little whiskers here, but I'm very excited to go deal with my little whiskers with my Manscaped razor because that thing is efficient and cool.
Fortunately, Hard Knock Life is being sponsored by Manscaped. They are the world's leading ball shaver, I guess. And now with the holidays coming up, this is the best time as any to go buy some ball shavers for you, yourself, and your loved ones. Just use the code HARDKNOC, HARDNOC, to save 20% and get free shipping for your lawnmower 4.0, for your, what's the nose trimmer called? The weed whacker.
Yes, the weed whacker.
Get some shampoo, get some body wash, get the whole nine at manscaped.com.
What's that coupon code again?
Hard Knock, HARDNOC. Brittany, you going to buy some Manscaped products for the holidays?
Maybe I will. Maybe I will send some to Richard Madden, you know?
Oh,
Does he need his balls shaved?
Yeah, how'd
He
you
looked
do it?
pretty
but,
hairless
you
in the
know,
scene
it's just
with Gemma Chan.
it's just my way of being like, hey, Richard, I'm available. Read me some poetry and know?
Nice. Awesome. Yeah, because I thought he was well groomed, but again, Manscaped deals with that stuff that you can't see on the movie
In a
screen.
PG-13 movie, especially.
yeah, you know, who knows? He probably does use Manscaped.
Yeah, although we came closest because we saw a lot of his back. We didn't quite get into, where the, the butt fuzz,
Where the
would
magic
be.
was happening.
Yeah, where the magic mic area.
To be like Icarus and be hairless in all the places where it counts, just go to manscaped.com, order your products, and use the code HARDKNOC, HARDNOC.
Great holiday gifts, because maybe you've got someone a razor like 2 or 6 times in your life. You got your dad or brother a razor or something, but this one has a special purpose, and everything has a fun name, so it's a good conversation topic because you get to say balls a lot. But
and your balls will thank you.
Yeah, your balls will thank you. You get to open up a relationship with your balls, basically, that might not have been an open dialogue before, and care for them.
And do that by ordering your products at manscaped.com with the code HARDKNOC, HARDNOC. You will save 20% and get free shipping at manscaped.com. What's been nerd popping for you guys these last couple weeks? A lot of things have been happening in the nerd world. What's been most exciting for you, Brittany?
So kind of 2 things. I'm really excited that Dune got announced for a part 2, and I just rewatched the movie again last night. I think it's so good. And
you didn't have enough long ass movies in the desert that you had to go see another one.
I did. And you know what I will say? I really hope that more blockbuster movies will do like approaches like Dune and Eternals, to where they are ambitious and they are they're more artsy, but like, I don't know, both of them were epic and fun. And so I just hope like we get more blockbusters like that, and that maybe don't hold the audience's hand the whole time too. You know what I mean?
Intellectual blockbusters.
Yes, like I would want more of those type of wheelhouse things, because I really enjoyed both of those. Even though I might have like doing a little bit more, but still. Anyways, and then also, the Book of Boba Fett trailer. Like, oh my gosh, I am so excited for that. I'm really excited. I like to see, Tamara Morrison and Ming-Na Wen. Like, I don't know. I really ship them.
Is that coming out in December?
Yes.
Yeah, I think December 29th.
Something like that, yeah.
Huh.
I think it's a month after Hawkeye. It's like a week or 2 after Hawkeye's done, or like right after. Yeah, because Hawkeye.
It's the next big thing after Hawkeye. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Cool. Dominic, what's nerd popping?
Well, from the most cosmic, ambitious, out there Marvel thing to the most like grounded one, so they put out some more Hawkeye TV ads, and I'm pretty excited because I think the concept looks good. The Die Hard with the Avengers thing, I think, is going to play really well. Again, street level people without much powers fighting these, what are they called? The tracksuit mafia or something? So some dudes. And
they're supposed to be in it, but
that would be
we'll
great.
see. We'll see.
Maybe he's in the musical. But,
Did you see though that like they released the poster that looked just like the Matt Fraction David Asia comics cover, but then David Asia was like, "Yeah, I didn't see a dime for that." Because we talked recently on the show.
Yeah, how about that?
Artists don't get credit for the stuff that they create in these MCU products.
Well, I will say Chloe Zhao did, when she's like in her opening credits, she did have it say based on comics by Jack Kirby.
Jack Kirby, yeah.
Yeah, so
which is a first in the MCU too. I don't think.
Yes, at least to credit them in like the credits like that, and not just the based on Marvel comics.
Or just Stan Lee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, she did credit Jack Kirby. So that I really like that, unless they were forced to. But I do appreciate that. And then they do need to pay these people more money for using their ideas and their concepts, because it's like they, it's their baby too.
Yeah, and it's not all Stan Lee. None of this would happen without this limitless mine of creative ideas from the House of Ideas, which were all works for hire. I get that idea, but come on now, look at what you're doing.
Back to Hawkeye real quick. I know that, Dominic, you're a big Haley Steinfeld fan, because on the Nerds of Color, you wrote a poem in the style of Emily Dickinson for the final season of Dickinson on Apple TV.
Haley Steinfeld was just killing it. Dickinson season 3, the third and final season of that Apple TV show, is coming out this week. And also Hawkeye is going to come out this week. So big streaming presence for Haley Steinfeld. In a couple weeks. In a couple weeks.
This month.
I'm in November. There's going to be a big Haley Steinfeld.
Brittany was like, "What? Let me get on Disney Plus."
It's too soon. It's too soon.
Wait, I got to plan my whole week now.
Sometimes I say week, month, year, day in the wrong places because I don't know what time is anymore.
2020 is what changed that. Week, month, day, that they're all the same now.
But yeah, she's great. She does the action spectacle movies well. She does the giving you access to someone's inner life really well. And again, curious if it's going to be like at all analogous to the ScarJo situation, where they get someone who's already a pretty big star and then they have to wrestle with whether they can keep her around for like 7 in-universe movies and have her whole life be an NDA, and I don't think people are going for that anymore. I think mid-level and high big stars are not going for that anymore. There will always be people who sign on for Marvel who are for whom it is a giant break in their careers, right?
Yeah, I totally am always available, Marvel. Come kick some butt. What's nerd popping for you, Keith?
So everyone knows I'm a Broadway guy. I'm a theater kid, grown up or not.
Talk about
and John M. Chu's Wicked movie finally revealed its casting, and I'm not sure what I think about it.
Okay,
so
first of all,
for what it's worth, let's
before y'all say anything about one of them, they started off on Broadway before they were on Nickelodeon. So please don't
hold on.
Not you, but I'm just saying other people. I'm tired of other people saying this person does not can't sing Broadway.
I'm not saying that. Well, okay. Well, let's reveal the news. Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande have been cast to play Elphaba and Glinda, respectively, in the Wicked movie directed by John Chu. And Cynthia Erivo is Elphaba, and Ariana Grande is Glinda. And the internet went crazy. I'm of two minds of the casting, because on the one hand, yes, they are both absolutely brilliant singers with Broadway experience. You're absolutely right. And Ariana Grande has talked about how much Wicked is so important to her. Everyone knew she wanted to be in the movie, and she was cast as Glinda. My issue with Ariana is that I don't see her as a Glinda.
I see her as Elphaba.
If she was cast as Elphaba, that I probably would have been like, oh, okay. I just don't see her as Glinda. She's not a Glinda to me. And the way she sings is not a Glinda-esque singer. So I'm a little kind of,
Is Glinda older and Alpha? I don't know the story.
They're the same age.
They're supposed to be the same age, but musically...
Cynthia Erivo is a lot older than Ariana Grande, isn't she?
But they're supposed to be the same age, but musically, Ariana's voice lends better to Elphaba. I've always thought that, even though I know that she was like a huge hardcore Kristen Chenoweth fan, and she's also friends with her now because of, I think, was it her aunt or her grandma who kind of worked in Broadway when she was younger, so that's how she actually met Kristen when she was young, really young, and she got into Broadway and can sing. So that's why some people don't know that whole stuff about.
I mean, I don't question her Broadway bona fides. It's just that I don't think she is Glinda. And I mean, of course, they could prove us wrong. Elphaba. I could see her as Elphaba.
Vocally, I think she'd be a better Elphaba. I just feel like in the type of actual character she plays, when we're not talking about music, she lends better to the Glinda,
I guess maybe.
I feel like she would.
Maybe. I wasn't too impressed with her. I wasn't too impressed with Ariana Grande when she played Penny in Hairspray Live, though. And I feel like Penny's kind of similar to Glinda, the ditzy little, sidekick kind of thing. And I don't know. I mean, again, prove me wrong. I'll be there opening night for Wicked. It's just that I was not feeling the Ariana Grande as Glinda. And the other thing that I'm worried about is, as we know, John Chu is 2 for 2 in not dealing with racial questions at the press tours of his movies. Remember Crazy Rich Asians? They were like, where are the brown Asians? He's like, I don't know how to answer this question. And then in The Heights, it was like, where are the brown Latinos? I don't know how to answer this question. So when Wicked comes out, he needs to get prepared. Why the black person got to be green? Because that is a trope in Hollywood, that the only time you cast black people is when you paint them green. And, you know, Elphaba, of course, is the standout character. I mean, Wicked is about Elphaba. She's the one that everyone wants to be. And I'm not saying Cynthia Erivo is wrong for being cast as Elphaba, but it does fall into the trope of the black person getting painted. You know, think of Gamora, think of like all of the remember, like there was like a Twitter meme of all of the people of color, black people especially, who get painted differently in order to be cast, right? So just, I'm saying, John, as your friend, before you go on a press tour for Wicked, have an answer, because you've been caught blindsided twice now on your press tours for your movies. Yeah. You don't know how to answer those kinds of questions. So be prepared, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, I think also I don't like Cynthia personally, just because of how she very makes it clear that she has an issue with African American people.
Or the Harriet Tubman.
Because she's British. I want people to remember she's like Black British. She's not, you know, African American. So she has an issue with African Americans because she likes to talk trash about us. So I'm just kind of like, I don't want her to be Elphaba. Like, I know she can sing and I know she can act. Like, I know she's talented. It has nothing to do with her talent. I just don't like her energy in that kind of sense. I'm like, ew. I mean, they could have given Ari a better Elphaba, but that's my thing. I don't know. I'm still kind of excited though.
I saw someone tweet that they wanted Dove Cameron and Ariana DeBose as Elphaba and Glinda, and I thought, well, I could see that, but you know, we got what we got. So anyway,
I don't know this story, but that was fascinating. That's one of those musicals I don't know a lot about.
Well, you know, and that this Nerd Poppin' was specific for Lauren Lola, because she said to me she wanted to know what my thoughts on the Wicked casting were. So Lauren, I hope you're listening.
Okay, Lauren.
With that, how can people find you on the internet, Brittany?
You can find me on Twitter at HiBrittanyMonet, as well as Instagram, and then you can check out my other podcast at Naomi Podcast, where it's the feed for Black Lightning. It will be for the Naomi podcast, which is going to correlate to the CW show by Ava DuVernay, and then also the Lituation Room is all on that same feed. So nice.
Are you going to have a special episode for the Flash premiere, since Black Lightning's in the Flash premiere?
Yes, we will. We already talked about it. We're going to talking about Armageddon as probably a whole, and then also, you know, Black Lightning coming back. And there's also Black Lightning Funkos, if you guys don't know that. I pre-ordered all of them, and a Rogue One from X-Men. But yeah, you can get Tobias, Lightning, Black Lightning, and Thunder if you want the little Funko set, which is on Amazon. So
nice.
Yeah.
Dominic, how can people find you?
I am at Dama, DOMMAH, on Instagram or Twitter, and also my YouTube channel is Melancholy Ball, or you can find it at melancholyball.com.
You can find me on Twitter at @RealChow, _real_Chow, and follow the Nerds of Color at the Nerds of Color. Go to hardknockmedia.com to find this and all of the podcasts in the Hard Knock family. Subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, anywhere you get podcasts. Give us a rating and review if you do, because that's how people find the show. Email us, thenerdsofcolor@gmail.com. Support us on Patreon and on GoFundMe. And until next time.
Look, I have a Cersei Happy Meal toy unwrapped from the McDonald's Happy Meal. I think they just have Cersei and Icarus. I was happy to get a Cersei one.
So here's the thing. I have the entire wave of Eternals figures from Hasbro, but I kept them in box because I was like, well, I only opened Phaistos because I remember I was like, I have the Atlanta cast. I have Donald Glover, Brian Henry, and Zez.
Yeah. Oh yeah, cool.
I'm just waiting for a Lakeith Stanfield figure. But I didn't open the other 9. Well, I don't have Ajax yet. That's on order. I have the other 8 sitting in boxes. Like, let me see if I like this movie. Spoiler alert, I opened the toys. So
nice.
You did open it. Okay.
I did.
I do want to
you want to have it now.
I want
friends an Icarus, what do you call it though?
The Icarus story is cool. It's got like glowy eyes and stuff. Anyway,
but I have no more room for all my Funkos. So I'm the weird person who takes them out of the boxes and likes to use them as little like decorations, I guess.
Yeah.
So I don't know where to put my other ones. I'm already like, where am I gonna put the 5 that I just ordered?
They do end up clustering, especially when there are 10 superheroes in the movie and you gotta have them all.
Oh, well,
They're not Pokemon. You don't have to.
gotta catch them.
I was mixing that up, but yeah.
But I think the music has already stopped, so we should just we should probably get going. Bye.
Bye.
Okay.